welcome to Dawsons Auctioneers, third episode of our podcast. I thought I'd touch upon, in this episode, the auction world and some of the characters and some slight recollections also. The auction world is a funny place to inhabit. I think that you're either suited to it or you're not. This air of mystique that was set up classically in the 18th century by the very lofty and grand auctioneers has softened, I'm happy to say, over the last few hundred years. Of course, initially in Britain, I think the first, I could be wrong, and before you bombard me with emails, I'm just a valuer, I'm not a historian. I think the first recorded auction in Britain was in the 1650s, I think. Of course, at that date, quite a lot of the auction houses weren't auction houses proper. They would actually conduct their business in the coffee houses and the tea shops that were. There was quite a plethora of auction sales being undertaken around Fleet Street and that locale in London. And they used to sell all sorts of tea. There's still actually a very vibrant market in tea auctioneers. Tea auctioneers are some of the fastest in the world, fastest being the tobacco auctioneers in America. I once met a tea auctioneer, a very interesting chap, and it was interesting to compare notes on procedures and the like. I'm not an auctioneer anymore. I've forgone that. I don't miss it. I was never rigged for it, to be honest with you. It was always something that I had to endure to allow me to handle the nice things. That's always been the interest for me. The auction world, I always maintain it's the second oldest profession. We all know what the first oldest profession is. But agency, of course, it's agency at its purest. You have an item, you want to sell it, we sell it to a purchaser, we act as your agent. There are all sorts of different levels of agency, but auctioneering really, we take it, we catalogue it, we market it. Very, very, very important nowadays. You won't find many regional auctioneers with a dedicated marketing department. Here, we actually have a team who are very active, I'm happy to say. We market it to the widest possible audience. People are encouraged to bid. This is in a nutshell. This is the no frills skinny, as the Americans would say. This is the skinny on the auction world. We sell it. We take a commission. As I've mentioned, our commission rate is 17.5% plus VAT and £15 lotting fee. And I think I've covered that already. Basically, that covers, it's an admin charge, the lotting fee, and it covers the overheads, which are quite considerable, of employing full-time professional, and is very good photographer, the marketing department, the IT department, because no auction house now runs without IT. So that covers that. We meet all sorts of people. You meet the trade. Auctioneers and the trade have always had a sort of strange relationship, in as much that we are two sides of the same coin. And people say love is akin to hate, and you will always find that the trade are usually our greatest critics, but we couldn't do without each other, in honesty. We couldn't. I count several traders as friends. Indeed, one very well known and successful furniture dealer actually came to my wedding. So it's a symbiotic relationship. And it's quite comical that you can see traders out and about, and it's they will hello, how are you, and you'll chew the fat for a little while, but you see them in the congregation of dealers and it's very standoffish. We all wear different hats, and we all seek to fulfil different roles in our positions, but the auction world is quite an ancient one. The records, whether or not whether or not it's actually factual, but the records of Babylonian auctions, rather unethical ones. And I believe at the sack of Rome, the whole of the Roman legions were offered on the block. Whether or not that's, you can see it, it's actually in a very, very good book called Auctions and Auctioneers. And there are quite a few anecdotes in there. Of course, what's brought the auction world into sharp focus is a sort of easy for me to say, proliferation of television-based shows like sort of Cash in the Attic and the Antiques Road Trip, etc. And they've opened it up slightly. Quite a lot actually, to the buying public and people wishing to consign things. People are far more savvy about what can and can't be done. Of course, we all have to be au fait really as auctioneers with auction law and practice, or you should be au fait with. There are various no-nos in the auction world. One is, it's often levelled at us, but it's less common than you would think. That is what's often levelled at auctioneers. I have to say I haven't heard it said about Dawsons, but running people, so if someone leaves a bid, it's trotted on. It's less prevalent nowadays, in honesty. That I'm happy to say that has gone by the board to a great degree. And you used to find a talk of rings. Now, if you've heard of a bidding ring and you want to know what it is, basically the skinny on this is that, first of all, if you're conducting an auction, you have to have the Bidding Agreements Act on display, and we do, for people to look at, and so they know what can and can't be done. So there's a framework to work within. The ring is a group of, I'm not going to say dealers, predominantly it was dealers, but a group of individuals who would actually get together and they would agree not to bid against each other. And then they would conduct their own little auction outside of the environment of the official auction. And this was illegal. I think there's only been one conviction, and comically it's documented in a book. And it was a group of dealers, Midlands and Welsh dealers, who actually went to a farm sale, a dispersal sale in Wales, and they conducted this ring, and then they foolishly went in convoy to Abu Dhabi Beach. And reading the manuscript of the arresting police officer's statement was quite funny, because he said he was alerted to an odd situation and possibly an illegal auction going on by a convoy of Volvo motor cars heading in the general direction of the beach. But give him his due, he actually commandeered, there was a BBC Natural History unit filming the life of some wading birds, and they were using a boom microphone, and he actually commandeered the sound man, and he got them all recorded on a boom mic. But comically, apparently they parked their Volvos in a ring, a bit like sort of Wild West type thing, wagons in a ring. And there were some convictions. I think that's the only one that I can honestly say, because it's so difficult to police. But now, people, because good things are hotly sought, people are less likely to step aside for someone else. Now, they would rather have the items, the dealer would rather have the good items, because, really you're only as strong as your stock. A dealer friend said to me, he said, I would rather have the things, he said, because it keeps your stock fresh, it sets a benchmark. He said, so I want the good things. He said, I'm less likely, as it was in the bad old days, to step aside and take money out of the pot, as it were. I forgot to mention that this illegal ring business, they would agree not to bid against each other, but later they would conduct their own little auction, and then they would divvy up the amount paid into the ring to each member of the ring. And so even if you didn't buy something, what they call held, if you didn't hold something in the ring, you would still be paid out. So you could attend an auction and actually not intend buying anything, but you wouldn't say that obviously, and still be paid out for your day. So it was prevalent in, I think probably the heyday was the sort of from the 20s to the 1990s, I'd have thought. But you know, as dealers developed, they wanted to hold better stock. They were less likely to want to set another term to settle. So that's gone by the board. So that's basically the skinny on that. The auction world, there are lots of characters. I've met many of them in my time. Many situations have been rather comical. Lots of people have said to me that, you know, you do this and you do that, and you know, lots of people can tell me how I could have been wealthier. Yes, and I've always played a straight bat. But you know, they couldn't tell me how I'd be happier. And you know, they say if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life, and it's the truth. There are good days and bad days, but it's a funny environment, and it's steeped in etiquette, and or should be, and history, and the terminology. For instance, coming from a council estate in the Black Country, the etiquette wasn't huge. So then to go to work in an establishment that was based in the 18th century, and you referred to, and it used to be the case, but now it would be the exception. Everyone was referred to either sir or madam. Was quite nice, and it gave you a grounding, and you know, you knew how to conduct yourself within that framework. But it's been an interesting journey, and I'm pleased to be where I am. I can honestly say, hand on heart, that I think that, and this isn't just a paid endorsement. You know, I'm not waving the flag just because I work for Dawsons, but I think that Dawsons really are the future. Huge growth, new technology coming online every day, and this is the future, and I'm glad to be part of it. Any questions, please feel free to hit me up with an email, and in coming podcasts, things which I think are interesting, you may not, but that's fine. I've had a life for that. I'll put links to that will accompany the podcast, and you know, so we go from there. Any questions, give me a call. Thank you.